Have you noticed how society demands men be always strong, always invincible, always unshakable? This invisible pressure is destroying the masculine soul from within, creating a generation of men who smile outside, but bleed silently inside. What if I told you the great Stoic philosophers had the solution for this over 2,000 years ago? A solution that doesn't require you to become less of a man, but more complete as a human being. Imagine being able to face any life storm, not by suppressing your emotions, but by mastering them with wisdom. Imagine having an internal fortress so solid that nothing external could truly shake you. Stay until the end of this video and discover how Stoic philosophy can transform your relationship with your own masculinity in ways you never imagined possible. Observe the modern American man.
At 6 in the morning, he rises in his apartment in Manhattan, Beverly Hills, or Brooklyn, already feeling the weight of a day that hasn't even begun. He walks the streets carrying an invisible burden, the relentless social decree to always be strong, always have the answers, always be the pillar that supports everything and everyone. It's not just a whisper, it's a deafening roar echoed in every aspect of his life, from the first lessons learned at his father's knee to the fierce battles in corporate boardrooms. He learned early that men don't cry, men don't complain, men solve problems. But what if this very strength, this invulnerability he learned to project, wasn't a protective shield, but a prison preventing him from being truly free? In a world demanding unwavering fortitude 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, men frequently learn that vulnerability equals weakness, that emotions are toxins to be suppressed at any cost, and that true self-worth is measured exclusively by an inflexible facade that can never crack, not even in the solitude of their own bedroom. This pressure, though rarely verbalized openly, leaves countless men feeling profoundly isolated, trapped in a bubble of loneliness, unable to seek comfort or openly address the internal turbulence that inevitably arises when life brings them to their knees. They become like those great bronze statues adorning city squares, impressive from a distance, symbols of strength and permanence, but secretly corroded by time and weather, slowly crumbling without anyone noticing. How many men do you know who seem to have everything under control on the outside, but when you look closely into their eyes, you see deep sadness, an exhaustion that even the best sleep can't cure? But what if I told you there's another way? What if true strength didn't reside in the absence of feeling, but in complete mastery and understanding of it? What if the most powerful masculinity embraced both vulnerability and strength, understanding they're two sides of the same coin? This revolutionary exploration begins now. Unmasking the burden, the Stoic path to true fortitude. Let me tell you the story of a man who lost absolutely everything, and paradoxically, that's when he found the greatest wealth of his life. Think of Zeno of Citium, the merchant who would become the founder of Stoicism. He was an ordinary man like you and me, sailing the Mediterranean carrying valuable goods, building his fortune through trade. Then in a violent storm he lost everything in a shipwreck. Imagine the devastation. Years of work, his entire fortune, his life plans, all swallowed by the waters in a matter of hours. But here's what's extraordinary. Faced with total and complete ruin, he didn't surrender to despair or self-pity. Instead, finding himself in Athens with nothing but the clothes on his back, he made a discovery that would change not only his life, but that of millions of men throughout history. He sought knowledge, diving deep into philosophy, studying with the greatest masters of his time. And finally, from this devastating loss, this apparent tragedy, he forged a philosophical path that would inspire and strengthen generations of men for the next 2,000 years. This isn't a story about ignoring the storm or pretending pain doesn't exist. It's about learning to navigate through it with wisdom, self-control, and deep understanding of human nature. It's about cultivating what the Latins called mens fortis in tempestate, a truly strong mind in the tempest, not despite it but because of it. The ancient Stoics, men who faced wars, exiles, persecutions, and unimaginable losses, understood a fundamental truth our modern society seems to have forgotten. We simply don't control external events. We don't control the economy that might cost us our job. We don't control the traffic that makes us late for important appointments. We don't control people who disappoint us. We don't control illnesses that might afflict us. And we certainly don't control the suffocating expectation society places on our shoulders as men. Trying to control these things is like trying to stop the wind with your hands, an exercise in infinite frustration that only leaves us weaker and more desperate. But, and here's the golden key that changes everything, we have absolute control over our responses. We control our thoughts, our judgments, our decisions, and our actions. This isn't cold detachment or emotional insensitivity. It's strategic emotional intelligence at its highest level. It's the difference between being a dry leaf tossed aimlessly in autumn wind and being a century-old tree, with deep roots, able to bend gracefully with storms without breaking, remaining firm not through rigidity, but through intelligent flexibility and genuine inner strength. This revolutionary philosophy encourages us to constantly examine our internal judgments, because, as the great Epictetus, a man who knew suffering intimately, having been a slave before becoming one of history's greatest philosophers, wisely declared, "Suffering doesn't come from events in our lives, however painful they may be, but from hasty judgments, distorted interpretations, and unrealistic expectations we make about those events." Consider now the 4 cardinal virtues of Stoicism, which are like the 4 pillars supporting true masculinity. First, wisdom, not just intellectual knowledge, but the practical ability to discern what truly matters, to separate the essential from the superfluous, to see through the illusions society sells us about success and happiness. Second, temperance, genuine self-control that allows us to enjoy life's pleasures without being enslaved by them, giving us the power to say no when necessary, even when everyone around us is saying yes. Third, justice, not just following laws, but treating ourselves and others with the fundamental respect every human being deserves, including the courage to defend what's right, even when it's inconvenient. And finally, courage, which for Stoics isn't just about facing extraordinary circumstances like war or natural disasters. It's about the daily, constant courage to confront everyday challenges with clarity and unwavering integrity. It's the courage to recognize and name your fears instead of denying them, to process your anxieties instead of medicating them with distractions, and to speak your authentic truth, even when entire society tells you to grit your teeth, swallow hard, and endure in silence. This is the true path to what the ancients called esto vir qui sustinet, being the man who truly endures and thrives, not by brutally suppressing his emotions as if they were enemies to be defeated, but by truly carrying, processing, and transforming his burdens into wisdom, strength, and compassion. Before we continue, if this message is already making sense to you and has been blessing you, if you're beginning to see your masculinity in a new light, consider supporting this channel with a super thanks. Your contribution helps us continue bringing deep, transformative philosophical content to men who, like you, seek a genuine path to self-mastery and inner fulfillment. Every dollar you invest here returns multiplied in the form of wisdom that can change your life forever. Now let's dive into the practical exercises that will revolutionize how you face daily challenges. True emotional maturity, seen through the lens of Stoic wisdom, has absolutely nothing to do with being emotionless, cold, or insensitive, as many mistakenly interpret. On the contrary, it's about developing a deep, sophisticated understanding that our uncontrolled passions, explosive anger, paralyzing anxiety, depressive sadness, impulsive euphoria, can completely dominate us and prevent us from acting according to our highest values and inner wisdom. The ultimate goal isn't brutal suppression of these emotions, as if they were enemies to be annihilated, but intelligent, conscious management of them, transforming them into allies of our evolution. It's about developing acute, constant awareness of what's truly within our circle of control, our moment-to-moment thoughts, our judgments about situations we face, and our subsequent actions, versus everything outside it. It means viscerally understanding that while intense emotions will inevitably arise like waves in the ocean of consciousness, we always have sovereign power to choose how to react to them. We're not helpless victims of our internal states. We're conscious captains of the ship of our own experience. The first fundamental Stoic exercise that will change your life is daily practice of the dichotomy of control. Every morning, before even picking up your phone and connecting with the digital chaos, before checking emails or social media, stop for a few minutes and ask this transformative question: what do I have real control over today? You'll quickly discover you have no control over hellish city traffic, your boss's unstable mood, excessive family demands, economic instability, or unrealistic expectations others place on you. But you have total control over how you'll respond to each of these situations, what attitude you'll take, what meaning you'll attribute to events. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, emperor of Rome, practiced exactly this by writing his famous Meditations, which weren't intended for publication or posterity, but were intimate, brutally honest exercises in self-knowledge and self-mastery. You can and should do the same. Take a notebook and write 3 specific things that bother you most today, that drain your mental energy most. Next to each, make an honest analysis. Is this or isn't this under my direct control? If it's not, and most won't be, consciously practice the act of letting go, releasing unnecessary tension. If it is under your control, stop complaining and start acting with purpose and determination. The second powerful exercise is negative visualization, which has nothing to do with pessimism or mental masochism, but everything to do with psychological preparation and deep gratitude. Regularly spend a few minutes imagining scenarios where you lose the things you value most: your job, your health, your close relationships, your physical capacity, your financial stability. Don't do this to attract negativity or torture yourself unnecessarily, but for 2 crucial reasons. First, to viscerally realize your happiness and inner peace can't depend exclusively on these external, temporary things. Second, to develop genuine, non-superficial gratitude for what you have right now. When you truly internalize that everything can be lost, that nothing external is permanent, paradoxically you become simultaneously psychologically stronger and more consciously grateful. The third transformative exercise is what I call the Stoic pause. When something irritates you deeply, and it will happen because you're human living in an imperfect world, instead of reacting impulsively, count mentally to 10 and ask this crucial question: does this intense emotional reaction I'm about to have make me wiser, more just, more courageous, or more temperate? Does this automatic response reflect who I really want to be, or just how I feel in this specific moment of disturbance? If the honest answer is that your reaction doesn't contribute to your growth as a man, breathe deeply, connect with your highest values, and consciously choose a response that reflects the best version of yourself, not just your momentary impulses. The true revolution in your life as a man happens at the exact moment when you finally realize, viscerally and transformatively, that you don't need anyone's approval, validation, or recognition to feel complete, valuable, and worthy as a human being. This is a discovery that goes far beyond intellectual knowledge. It's an understanding that penetrates to the marrow of your bones and fundamentally changes how you relate to yourself and the world. The truly Stoic man doesn't desperately seek external validation because he's found an inexhaustible source of strength, peace, and self-respect in the depths of his own consciousness. He's built an inner fortress so solid that external storms can rage outside, but inside reigns deep, unshakable calm. He no longer needs to prove his masculinity through toxic behaviors like unnecessary aggression, destructive competition that steps on others to climb up, or unhealthy emotional suppression that transforms him into a time bomb about to explode. His genuine masculinity is defined not by external standards imposed by society, but by his developed capacity to consciously govern himself, to act consistently with virtue and integrity, even when no one is watching, even when it would be easier to take the more convenient path. He becomes a safe harbor not only for himself, but also for those he loves. his family, his true friends, his co-workers. When you develop genuine mastery over your most primitive and destructive impulses, you're not becoming less human or colder, as some superficial critics of Stoicism like to argue. On the contrary, you're becoming more fully human, accessing and developing that sublime part of you that is rational, that can make conscious choices, that can transcend difficult circumstances through strength of will and accumulated wisdom. This definitely doesn't mean you'll become a person who doesn't feel anger when something unjust happens, sadness when losing something valuable, or frustration when plans don't work out as expected. It means these natural, inevitable emotions will no longer control you like a puppet in the hands of an invisible master. They'll be like passing clouds crossing the infinite sky of your consciousness. You recognize them with acceptance, observe them with scientific curiosity, learn from them what they have to teach, but don't completely identify with them. Don't allow them to define who you are or determine how you'll act. The truly strong man, the man who has incorporated Stoic principles into his daily life, is precisely the one who can cry without shame when the situation genuinely demands tears, who can ask for help when he recognizes he needs support, who can publicly admit when he's made a mistake or doesn't know something important. This isn't disguised weakness. It's courage in its purest, most crystalline form. It's the heroic courage to be completely authentic in a world that constantly pressures you, emotionally blackmails you, and seduces you into being a completely distorted and unhealthy version of masculinity. It's the courage to look in the mirror and accept both your virtues and flaws, without arrogance or excessive self-deprecation. This is the most crucial moment of the video, the moment of absolute truth that can divide your life into before and after. After everything we've explored together, the suffocating social pressure, the millennial wisdom of Stoics, the practical exercises that can transform your internal reality, you've arrived at a definitive crossroads where you have a fundamental choice to make, a choice no one can make for you. You can continue living exactly as you've lived until now, under the crushing, relentless weight of external expectations that never stop growing, pretending 24 hours a day to be invulnerable while slowly breaking apart inside, wearing a mask so heavy you no longer remember what your true face looks like beneath it. You can continue being a stranger to yourself, a man everyone thinks they know, but who can't even recognize himself when alone in the dark. Or you can make the most courageous choice of your life. Completely embrace the Stoic path, the path of true inner strength that doesn't depend on external approval, that doesn't bow before storms, that finds peace in the midst of chaos. I'm not talking about magical transformation that happens overnight, because that would be dishonest and irresponsible of me. I'm talking about a conscious, deliberate, unwavering decision to start today, right now, while you're still watching this video, to courageously question every social pressure you've internalized without even noticing about what it really means to be a man in the 21st century. Every time you feel that familiar, suffocating internal voice whispering that you need to always be strong, always unshakable, always perfect, always have all the answers, always be the hero who saves everyone except himself, stop and remember this liberating truth. That voice isn't really yours. It's the distorted echo of a society that has completely lost its way about what constitutes true masculinity, that has confused strength with rigidity, courage with aggression, leadership with domination. Genuine masculinity, the masculinity that really matters and leaves a positive legacy in the world, is courage, but not the courage of action movies or war tales. It's the intimate, daily courage to be vulnerable when the situation calls for vulnerability, to constantly seek personal growth even when it hurts, to admit ignorance in order to learn new things, to apologize when you hurt someone, to say no when everyone around is saying yes, to defend your values even when it costs you dearly socially. It's temperance, the capacity developed through constant practice to control your most destructive impulses and always act with wisdom, even when your hormones are boiling, even when your anger is seething, even when your ego is wounded and wants revenge. It's justice, treating yourself and others without exception, with the fundamental respect every human being deserves simply for existing, regardless of color, social class, religion, or any other artificial category. And it's wisdom, the tireless, humble pursuit of better understanding yourself and the complex world around you. The courage to admit when you don't know something, the intelligence to learn from your mistakes instead of repeating them indefinitely. We've explored how relentless pressure to always be strong can become a profound obstacle to a man's self-love and emotional well-being. We've seen how Stoicism offers a powerful framework for navigating this pressure, emphasizing internal control, practical wisdom, and genuine courage. It's about moving beyond superficial demands of outward strength and cultivating an unshakable inner core. Remember, the obstacle isn't just in your way, the obstacle is the way. Every challenge, every discomfort, every moment of perceived weakness is an opportunity to practice these virtues, to understand yourself more deeply, and to build a truer, more resilient self. The journey toward self-love for men isn't about becoming harder or more impenetrable. It's about becoming more conscious. It's about recognizing the wisdom within you, the ability to control your reactions, and the courage to live authentically, free from the crushing weight of external expectations. What single step will you take today to embrace this journey? How will you begin to unmask the burden and truly define what strength means for you?